Hi, my name is Elizabeth Foster and I'm the founder of Connect Coach. And at Connect Coach, what we do is we connect people that are looking for professional expert coaches with coaches. And today we are joined by one of our really amazing coaches, and his name is Mitch Harris. Welcome, Mitch.
Hello, Elizabeth. Great to be here.
So lovely to have you, and thank you very much for joining us. So can I ask you what kind of coach you are? I mean, I know, but I know the people that are listening don't know. So tell me what you specialize in.
Certainly. I work with sales professionals, business owners, and entire corporations, and I help them to experience major breakthroughs in their sales performance and their production and their bottom line. As far as what that looks like, that will vary depending on the client and the particular circumstance. But at the end of the day, it's helping individuals and companies to get better bottom line results with their sales performance.
And I can't imagine anybody that would not want to get better bottom line results in their company or in their organization. So I can imagine that you must have people clamoring at your door and knocking it down, going, "Hey, I need your help."
Well, you don't have to work too hard to get someone to see the value of what I offer. Obviously, therein lies my distinguishing myself within the market, which is what I teach other people to do. So I'd like to think I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. The clients that we've connected you with, they certainly have said that. So
excellent.
So what actually led you to become a coach and specialize in this area?
Certainly. I've come from over 25 years of direct frontline commission-based sales experience. So I have a very strong background in this area. And I had spent close to a decade as a financial advisor on Wall Street, managing money and on the front line, raising assets and dealing with clients. And while there were parts of that I truly enjoyed, I got to a point in my career where even when I was making very good money at it, financially things were doing very well, I still wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't satisfied, I wasn't fulfilled, and I wasn't truly happy with what I was doing. And interestingly, in the midst of that, what began to emerge at the company I was with was I naturally became the in-house mentor and trainer for the firm. I didn't hold an official title. No one ever hired me to do that. But naturally, a lot of the advisors in the firm, when they were struggling or coming up against their barriers or looking to do better, would naturally come to me. And I actually developed a reputation for that, where people would say, "You're struggling? Go talk to Mitch." And the partners of the firm I was with also began to ask me to give the sales meetings, because people were getting more value from my sales meetings. There was an energy translating that wasn't being received otherwise. And I finally realized that this is what I truly enjoy doing. I found a real passion for helping people step up in their business and to get to that next level, and also realized that I had a natural talent for it. And realized that I had to remind myself to get on the phone to raise assets or to manage money, when naturally I was just connected with helping people and serving them and get to that next level. So eventually, with that realization, I made the shift and got into the industry, got into the work that I'm doing now.
That's fantastic, and I can really hear the passion that you've got, and I can imagine that working in that job and everybody saying, "Hey, Mitch, I need your help," and what do you think I should do here, and how can I up my sales here? And I can imagine that must have been a great benefit for them to actually have you there.
That's what they told me, so I'd like to believe that was so, and got to the point where I had to guard my time because people were coming to me for that. So I am so clear I am in the right industry and just living a very purpose-driven life with the work I do now.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And it's interesting you talk about that, because I know that there are so many people in the world that are not living their purpose. They're not living the way that they feel in alignment with. And to really hear you say that it's powerful stuff.
Yes, and it's a different game completely when you can be aligned with that and swim with the current as opposed to having to swim up against the current.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So tell me, you talked about, you've had a lot of experience in that sales market and Wall Street, but you've got a name which is kind of interesting. And I was curious, and I'm not sure I've actually heard the story. So you are called the Samurai of Sales. That's what you're known as. What does that, tell me about that?
Yes, I am, certainly. Well, interestingly about the samurai, many people in the West have their perceptions of what the samurai were and what they stood for. And the most common perception is simply the fighting and the battle and the war. And that was a part of their calling. They were called upon to protect their clan or their village when it was necessary. But what many people don't realize is that the word samurai actually means in Japanese, those who serve. That's the literal meaning of the word Japanese. It's about coming from service. Many samurai were engineers, they were teachers, they were professors, and they were committed to serving those around them. And I find that, first of all, from my own perception and the work that I do, when I'm coming from a place of service, what will help this person create the results, the outcome they want out of their lives, what will help them get to the next level, I am so much more effective, and my business does so well, and the money and the revenue come as a result of that. And when I can teach that to my clients or the people I work with, where it's not just about chasing that buck, although I want you to make all the money you can. When done properly and for noble purposes, being prosperous and making a lot of money is a beautiful thing. But when your primary motivation is how can I serve and help this individual I'm working with, you will find that the revenue will come in much larger quantities, and it's just a much better way to operate your business.
I like that. I like that. And I didn't actually know your story behind that, so it's fascinating for me to hear it as well. And it makes sense. When you're in alignment, when you're in that place of really giving service, everything is in a place of flow.
Yes.
And that is both not only felt within you, but I imagine also very much felt with the people that you work with.
Absolutely. When you're not coming from that place, people can feel it. They can see the dollar signs in your eyes. And it's just a different way, a different energy to vibrate with. So 100%.
Yeah, I can well see that. So we talked a little bit about increasing the benefits of people that work with you are their bottom line has increased, which like I said, who does not want that?
Sure.
But let's go into a little bit more detail now. I mean, who would actually benefit from working with you? Because we kind of did it on a broad scale. I'd like to kind of bring it down a little bit so that the listeners and the watchers can actually really get an understanding of where they might fit into working with you.
Certainly. Well, I've worked with many different industries over the years, and it's been one of the rewarding aspects of the work I do. But two brief examples I'd like to give. I'd like to give one example of a company, of an organization I worked with, and then an individual I worked with as well, because those can be two very different experiences. The company was a company in real estate, and at one point had been the top producing agency in the Bronx here in New York, but then it hit a lull. They were really struggling, and the owner of the company was at a loss around how to get to that next level and turn things around. I stepped in, gave them a completely different way of approaching the business in terms of their methodology, their approach, how they were dealing with their clients, A to Z, as well as affecting the morale of the team, inspiring them and reminding them why they chose the life of an entrepreneur, of a sales professional, and at the same time, Elizabeth, initiating accountability and follow through and keeping people to their word, which can be so powerful. And over the course of the 12 months that we began working together, the revenue for that company increased literally over 300% in one year. Which
wow, that's a lot of money. 300%, that's a lot of money.
Yep. It made a big difference and to the tune of millions of dollars. And I want to point out, I don't indicate that that's the case with everyone I work with. Different scenarios will vary. And if someone can increase an organization can increase its revenue between 10 and 15% over the course of a year, that can be a huge victory. But that was a scenario that I took a lot of pride in. And to this day, surprise, surprise, I still maintain a friendship with the owner of that company. But from a corporate level, that's one example. But another example that always warms my heart is an individual who's been a personal coaching client of mine for over 7 years. And this is a gentleman who had done well at points in his career and was at leadership with the company he was with. He was in technology sales. He had also hit a plateau and was struggling and was earning into the mid six figures, around $150,000, $160,000 per year, which is okay by many people's standards, but was far underperforming where he wanted to be. We began working together. Not only did I assist him in transitioning industries, he stepped into a completely new industry for the first time, which took him, he was shot down 3 times by that company before they eventually accepted him and brought him on board. So he was an experiment to begin with. With it, by his second year, he had closed his first 7-figure $1 million deal. And 1 year later, he was literally number 1 in the world out of a sales force that was an international Fortune 100 corporation, hitting over 280% of his quota, which was unheard of. And what's interesting is, as very often happens in corporate America, after he did very well and had that year, they increased his quota substantially the following year. He did the same thing the following year. He doubled his production and hit over 240% of his quota the following year. Went from a very modest 6-figure income to earning just shy of $1 million a year over the course of about 4 years. And we had some tear-felt moments together of just the impact that it had on his life, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of pride, the stress that was eliminated, the potential that opened him up to. And now he's at a point where he's looking at other options in his professional life, all because of that main breakthrough. And he gives me credit for this. So I'm not looking to grab the credit. I don't think that would have happened if we didn't engage. And I could have given him the methods and the feedback and the support that he needed to have that breakthrough.
Mm. Wow. I mean, I can really feel your passion when you talk about these clients and the care that you have. And what's interesting for me is that it doesn't matter if it's an organization or an individual. You actually both have the same level of care for both of them, as opposed
Yes.
to, well, they're a business, I've got to treat them in this way. But actually, it seems to not make any difference with you, whether, who they are or what level they're at.
Yes. People are people, whatever the industry, whatever the circumstance. There's a different dynamic, obviously, to each scenario, which in and of itself has a great benefit or a different kind of benefit. When working with an individual, to have that intimacy and to see someone who has their armor on, if you will, out in the corporate world or in the business world, looking to generate business, to take that armor off and expose what they're really struggling with, and to know that they're not going to be judged, and that there's someone who truly cares, who wants to help them. There's a real delicate, gentle intimacy to that kind of breakthrough. And at the same time, to be part of a team or an organization, to see an entire team of people together step up and create something collectively, there's a little bit of the We Are the World feeling of like, we did this together. You trusted me, leadership trusted in me, they gave me their full support. There were ups and downs, and it's never perfect, but to see the breakthroughs that are happening and to see an organization gain confidence in itself, that's also very inspiring. So I love both of them in different ways.
I think that's so fascinating. And like I say, I can really but see and feel that connection that you have with those clients. So I'm curious. You talk about the results that you've got. You talk about increasing the bottom line, and many times over the percent profit that you actually get with working with your clients. Tell me the secret. Like, how do you do it? How does it work? What does that process look like when you're actually working with a client?
Sure, that's a great question. And while, of course, there could be different answers to that question, depending on who I'm working with, what they need the most help with, and what the particular area of focus is. If I was going to boil it down to one answer, Elizabeth, it would be what I call the elusive obvious. The elusive obvious.
So what is the elusive obvious? What does that mean?
Certainly. What it means is very often the differential between greatness and being one of the best in your field, or being a champion, and mediocrity and the masses is not some huge gaping difference in skill, work ethic, or ability. And I think that's a misconception a lot of people walk around with. They tend to see someone who's done very well at what they're doing, and they compare that person to someone who's struggling, and they think they're in two completely different arenas. Very often it's a matter of just doing certain simple things a bit differently, making a shift in your methodology, noticing a blind spot that was there that you may not have noticed, or identifying. You hear so many consultants these days talking about best practices. Very often it's a matter of identifying your worst practices and how you're getting in your own way and what you may be missing, questions you're not asking, aspects of your brand or your approach that you're missing, not having the proper follow through or consistency, whatever it may be. But it's those things that might be right in front of your nose that you're just not seeing. What I call the elusive obvious, right? That game where the little head pops up and then disappears again, and you think you have it, but you don't. And very often that's why working with a coach or outside consultant can be so pivotal, because you could be the most talented, experienced, hardworking person on this planet, Elizabeth. But when you're in the fray, when you're in the heat of battle, if you will, looking to make things happen, there are things you're going to miss. And what I will very often do is come in and help an individual or an organization identify those things. Sometimes it could be as simple as finding a way to induce referrals or warm market introductions into conversations that you're having, or creating reciprocity in a way where someone feels naturally compelled to want to connect you with someone, or just finding specific things that will differentiate you from the other 90% of your industry that can be very subtle.
So talking of differentiating, you know, there is a lot of business coaches and sales coaches out there. What makes you different from them? What makes you, apart from, of course, being the samurai of sales, what makes you different from those other coaches?
Sure. Well, I'd say first off, in addition to what I just mentioned, which I think is huge, where it's not just coming in with a templated approach and just looking to spew a series of methodologies, but helping them to find that elusive obvious, or what I call competitive edge theory, which is another way of stating the same thing, which is being just a bit better on the average. What I understand coming in is that one size does not fit all. I won't attempt to fit someone into one box, or think that what may have worked for one individual or one team will work for another individual or another team. Different people are either motivated by different things. Some may be excited about what they can create. Some may be intimidated by the fear of screwing up or being a failure, right? And being able to be in touch with that and identify what's going to really push someone's buttons and get them tapped into their drive, and what's going to have them make that difference. So as far as what may motivate them, as well as what someone's strengths and someone's weaknesses may be. Someone may be a great presenter. They may be great in front of people, right? They may enjoy that and thrive on that. Well, get them in front of people. Get them giving group presentations or seminars, whatever the case may be. Network events and functions, right? Golf outings, whatever the case may be. Other people may be better behind the computer or on a telephone, or from a marketing standpoint. And part of my approach, and I feel what truly differentiates my approach, is I will come in and really, Elizabeth, the best way to say this is I see the matrix. I see the matrix very clearly for what's going to drive someone and what's going to allow them to play to their strengths and allow it to have maximum impact in that regard, instead of just giving a page of here are some ideas and methods to use. And when you can really hone in on that and pinpoint what will make that have that differentiating impact, one simple approach can create a floodgate of potential and results for someone. That's really a big part of my approach.
I can really imagine that, and listening to how you work with people, I think it actually is different from a lot of other people, and just as I say, but also that level of care and that level of it's almost, it's funny, the word kind of trust is coming up for me, and it's almost like trusting in them and trusting in you, and that level of trust, that actually symbiotic level of trust that actually goes on between you and your clients.
Certainly. One critical element of the work I do is the trust. You know, they have to have trust in me that I will be able to help them identify what can help them to elevate, right, and get to that next level and be more profitable. And they need to have trust in themselves that they will execute, that they'll actually follow through and make that happen. And a big part of my approach is holding the line. I will inspire someone, I will motivate them, I will support them, I will remind them of how great they are and why they need to be great. And at the same time, if they're not doing what we know they need to be doing, or if they're looking to go into story or analysis or rationalization to avoid doing what has to be done, I will be that clarifier for them and support them in following through in a way that will leave them empowered, but to let them know this is the line and this is what needs to be done.
Yeah. That makes total sense. That makes total sense. So yeah. I know that there is a couple of things that you're working on at the moment, but actually tell us a little bit more about the exciting projects that you've got going on right now.
Yes, certainly. I'm actually about to release my first book, and that's both in audio form as well as the printed book. And I'm very excited about both projects. And I can tell you that creating the audiobook was particularly exciting because it called upon a whole other faculty in the way of communicating my message and what I have to teach. It is narrated by yours truly. I did not hire a narrator to do this. I wanted to really feel that I could get my message across in a way that was authentic to me. I feel that the audio program has the listener engaged and entertained from start to finish. The energy level stays high, and it's full of a lot of specific tools and methods the individual can use to be more effective. And it's also a comprehensive program. It's a 12-track program that has over 13 hours of total runtime. So it's not one of these little like 3 or 4 disc programs. The hard copy version is going to come out in a full 8.5 by 11 3-ring loose leaf binder. It also comes along with an interactive workbook that you can go through real time as you're listening to the program. So it's like a home study course in that regard. But also if you're in the car or if you're traveling and you want to throw it on your iPhone and just listen to some audio, which I'm big on, which is one of the reasons I created that. If you're cleaning the house, whatever the case may be, to listen to this and take it in, it's a great tool to have me with you throughout your day. And then the print book will be coming out in several months as well, which I'm also very excited about. And they're both, aptly enough, titled The Samurai of Sales.
I love it. It's so exciting. I'm like, I can't wait to get my hands on a copy.
Thank you. I'm very excited as well. Certainly.
Oh, that sounds great fun. That sounds great fun. So, we've talked a lot about you as a coach. You know, we've talked about Mitch, the coach, but tell me a little bit about the personal side of you. Tell me, what do you do outside of being a coach to balance your life?
Certainly. And I think balance is a very important part of life. And as we know, one principle that the samurai identified was the yin and the yang. That yin and the yang that many people have heard of in the West, but it's a very central and I believe important dynamic in life, which is to keep your balance and to keep the flow of life. And of course, it's always an ongoing project. I don't know that any human being has that completely figured out, but I do my best to do that. And one thing that allows me to do that is meditation. I have been an avid meditation practitioner at this point for, I think, over 15 years. And I've gone off on, I think, 9 or 10 silent 10-day meditation retreats, where essentially you're living like a Buddhist monk for 9 out of those 10 days. You're sitting cross-legged for 6-7 hours a day in meditation. There are group meditations, but there are also individual meditations. You're up at 4 in the morning. You know, you're living the Buddhist tenets. And I can remember when I was a kid, and I would hear about monks and people going off on retreats. I'd be like, what are these people doing? Like, what are you, crazy? Why would you ever do that? Until you experience something like that, and you can realize the serenity and the clarity that it gives you. And I endeavor to do my best. It comes and goes like any practice, but I endeavor to do my best to meditate on a consistent basis. So that's one thing. I'll get into the gym. I like to stay toned. I like to swim, which really balances me out because I think there's just an experience and an energy to swimming that's very different from anything else. You're immersed in the water. I get my earplugs on and my tinted goggles, and I'm just in the zone, and I do laps. And not only is it good physically, but there's kind of a rhythmic balance it gives to the mind to just do repetitive strokes in the water at any given time. So I think from a physical level, that allows me to stay balanced. And aside from spending time with friends and people I care about, I'll also get behind the drum set every once in a while just to, I used to play more often when I was younger. And at times I think about putting together a project again. I'm not in a band currently, but just to sit on the drum set and to play and to connect with that rhythm, it's also a great balance and a great release when I do that.
Wow. I'm finding out all these new things about you I didn't know, and how lovely, how lovely. It sounds like your life is truly in balance.
Yes. Like I said, I feel like anyone, it comes and goes in different phases and stages we're in. And there are times when, for example, with the Samurai Sales book and the audio book, I spent many an hour in the library, into the late hour, where there were other places I could have been, and friends of mine, people I know doing other things. But I was clear that was a big part of the bigger balance. And experience I had years ago that always struck with me, that always stuck with me, is I remember listening to a speaker at an event, a very successful woman, and she was talking about balance. And she said, she had us stand on one leg. She goes, so stand on one leg right now and maintain your balance. So we all put our arms out to kind of keep our balance, and we were kind of going like this, and she said, if someone took a still shot of you and you were like this, you would look like you're out of balance. She said, sometimes part of maintaining balance is temporarily being out of balance for the things that are most important to you. Now, I don't say that from a standpoint of losing yourself in that, where you lose your sense of balance, but as far as the things that are most important to you, and especially as entrepreneurs or sales professionals or people who want to create something in their lives and in their business, sometimes you just got to go for it. And if that means spending a few more hours at the end of the day, waking up a bit earlier, making some sacrifices, whatever the case may be, knowing what your end game is. And that's one of the keys. Not doing it just for the sake of doing it, but knowing what your outcome is, or who you want to impact, or why you're doing it. That is a part of the greater sense of balance, and part of what makes being a sales professional and an entrepreneur truly inspiring.
Wow, it sounds great, and you sound very inspirational as well, may I say.
Thank you.
And talking of inspirational, I know that we often have people that we admire and who have inspired us in the past. So who do you admire?
Certainly. Well, I know this is almost a cliche answer giving this, because so many people give it, but I must give credit where it's due. It's Mr. Tony Robbins. He did open the door for me years ago, and I don't mind saying one of the reasons I'm so committed to the quality of my audio program being at the level it's at is because he truly impacted me through audio years ago. And he just opened the door. He introduced me to this. And I still continue to listen to him. And I had the opportunity to meet him years ago, which was great. So he's been a huge impact. I would say Brian Tracy, from a business standpoint, teaching specific methodologies and how to go about creating the success in your life. And you talk about an example of someone who is able to get his message across with the fewest number of words being said. I've never seen anyone who's able to get a point across so concisely, but in a way that has such a big impact. And I remember listening to him at an event, and the very first thing he said it so succinctly I almost missed it. But when he spoke about the beauty of being in professional sales, and that it truly is a gift, and that all the major impact on society, all the technological breakthroughs, the medical breakthroughs, the quality of life, the things that really allow us to live a great life, in one form or another, almost always come through professional sales, marketing, and advertising. And how people tend to maybe put that into a category, but when done properly, that opens the door for tremendous transformation in our lives. So he had a huge impact. Chet Holmes, I would say no question about that. And my original mentor, Bob Quintana, had a huge impact as well. And I know I could start going down a list of there's been a lot, but
Yeah.
those are some of the few.
Wow, it sounds like you've got a good team behind you as well. So
Yes,
that's wonderful.
definitely.
So what would you, if there was something kind of still on this personal note, although maybe a professional note as well, if there was one thing that you could change in the world, what would it be?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll narrow that as it relates to what I do, the kind of work I do, because I could also give a lot of answers to that. We are definitely living in some interesting times right now, and on many levels. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, empowering people to understand and embrace that being in professional sales and being an entrepreneur, which involves reaching out to people and offering a product or service, and at one point or another, Elizabeth, asking them for their money, right? What that may look like will vary, but at one point or another, asking them for their money, having society embrace the realization that when done properly and when done for the right reasons, that is a noble thing. That the money we're talking about is simply an exchange of value, and it's representing the impact of what you're able to do for people. You know, I think there's a bias towards people who are in some form of sales, marketing, and advertising, and because very often it does get distorted, right? That, you know, if you're doing something that involves a profit motive or doing something that involves money, you know, the image of the fast-talking, slick, you know, backslapper comes to mind. You know, I'll talk at you later. Where some of the most successful, prosperous sales professionals and entrepreneurs I've ever met and who I've worked with are truly genuine, sincere, caring people who you can trust, who will do right by you. And I believe that when society can dissolve some of the misnomers it has around sales and entrepreneurialism, that will have a huge impact on the quality of our society and our lives. I truly believe that.
Wow, that's so wonderful. And it's funny, you talk about people that are genuine and caring and trusting, and actually those are adjectives that I would absolutely feel very happy to associate with you. So
thank you.
Definitely one of those people. Mitch, I feel like I could carry on talking to you forever. I really enjoy talking with you and learning about you and finding out about how you work with clients, and it's just so fascinating. And I can see that level of real care that you have for them that I've mentioned before. But I would really recommend anybody that is looking to really make an impact on their bottom line. Someone who is wanting to up their sales, who's stuck, who's struggling, who knows that they can do better, but they just need a little help getting there, to absolutely reach out and get in touch with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Elizabeth. And I'm committed to that mission, to working with people and entire organizations to help them create that. And I also want to acknowledge you for the impact that you're having and the platform that you create to impact lives on a consistent basis, and to allow people to have access to coaches and consultants and people who who want to help and improve the human condition. So thank you as well.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thanks for taking the time today. It's been great talking with you. And as I say, anybody, I'd recommend reaching out, Mitch Harris, the Samurai of Sales.
Yes, my pleasure, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.